Hi people, I've kept on trying out different builds for my Rested Druid just to see what they're like and if they're fun to play, and this time it was the regrowth build I tried out. I've been reluctant to try this build because regrowth is quite mana inefficient compared to rejuvenation or to some extent healing touch. But what you really pay for when it comes to regrowth is the very fast casting time. With 5 out of 8 pieces of tier 2 and the proper talents, a majority of your casts will be 1.3 seconds long. Albeit reducing cast time below 1.5 seconds won't increase your potential healing output due to the global cooldown, it will still help you beat other healers to it. In practice, reducing casting time below 1.5 seconds will help you beat the priests and paladins with their 1.5 seconds heal. At 1.3 seconds cast time, regrowth becomes the fastest heal in the game, giving you a 0.2 seconds head start to every other healers at minimum. That makes this build the optimal build to parse with on shorter fights. So basically the entirety of Molten Core and Blackmoon Lair, and many fights in Ankarash as well. And if you do look at the top Druid parses on most fights, almost all of them are regrowth Druids. Moving on, due to certain key talents, you're left without not too many options when it comes to choosing a spec. Nature's Grace and Improved Regrowth have crazy synergy and are very strong talents. Interestingly enough, this build is basically optimized no matter what spells you heal with when it comes to HPS. Well, until you go that is. You get all the key talents for healing touch healing, rejuvenation healing and regrowth healing as well. So this is actually a very good all-around build for Restoration Druids, as you can perform fine no matter what spells you heal with. Nature's Grace, Improved Healing Touch and 4 out of 5 Gift of Nature for Healing Touch. Improved Rejuvenation and 4 out of 5 Gift of Nature for Rejuvenation Healing. And of course Nature's Grace, 4 out of 5 of Gift of Nature and 5 out of 5 in Improved Regrowth for Regrowth Healing. The thing you sacrificed was a mana efficiency, but that's what mana consumables are for. To be honest, this is probably what I would call the best standard build for Rested Druids, just because you can do so well with all playstyles, which allows you to really optimize your playstyle according to each situation. Maybe go rejuvenation spamming on most trash fights, regrowth healing on shorter boss fights, and rejuvenation healing when the AoE damage is intense. And of course, healing touch on the twins. We've now arrived to the part where I've done all the math and you just look at a graph and agree. Okay, so first of all, we're just quickly gonna look through some of my base stats, then we're gonna look at some of the base values for the heal, we're gonna do some comparisons to rejuvenation healing, and finally we're gonna look at the relative value of crit chance. All of this is just theoretical values. We're gonna look at some logs later on in the video to see how this plays out in practice. Anyway, my base healing with 5 out of 8 tier 2, which is optimal for this build I think, is 924 or 25 or so, and my crit chance is 60%, supposing that you have 5 out of 5 regrowth. And this is without taking any world buffs or consumables into consideration, and about 6.1k mana. Looking at the 9 different ranks of regrowth, we can see that they're actually quite mana expensive. For example, looking at rank 4 regrowth, comparing it to rank 11 rejuvenation, we see that rank 11 rejuvenation, if you're in the proper talent build, is actually cheaper than rank 4 regrowth. That should say something about, well, I guess both how expensive regrowth is and how cheap rejuvenation is. Now, as I'm sure you know, regrowth has both a direct healing component and also a healing over time component, and I'd recommend you to not underestimate the healing over time effect at all. This actually makes up to half of all your healing done, and I think that mastering the healing over time part, I mean on top of just using regrowth in a smart way, is really the key to getting really high logs. So as you can see in the base healing, it's basically identical. There's very small differences between your healing over time part and your direct heal. They basically do as much healing, so you shouldn't really consider regrowth a direct heal with a weak healing over time. This is basically like if you split healing touch in 2 and you make the first part direct heal and then the second part a healing over time, and then you pay extra mana to make this heal really fast, then you have regrowth. You can see some really low coefficients actually for the direct heal, and normally whenever you have an instant spell or a cast that's 1.5 seconds or lower, you're gonna have a, I think, 0.43 coefficient, but because you have a hot part as well, they've lowered the coefficient for the direct heal below 0.43, or maybe it's 0.41, it's somewhere around those numbers. As you can see, it's actually higher for the coefficients, for the healing over time coefficient, and this is adding all the ticks together. I think there's 7 ticks, yes, 21 second hot. So this is adding the coefficient for each tick, so to say. So maybe you're gonna do, I think, 7% of your total healing power as bonus, which will add it up to, I think, yeah, 50% or so in the end. Really low, actually, or rather, at a really low rank, you've already maxed them out. There's barely any difference between rank 2 and rank 3, and then it's capped already at rank 3. So if you want to play with the most mana efficient rank of regrowth, then stay at rank 3. Personally, I like to use rank 4, however. But you should really use whatever heal that makes you go right as the fight ends, as that will allow you to have done the maximum amount of healing. Looking at the total healing for the direct spell, we've included both crit chance and healing power, and the way we've done this is we've assumed that if you cast 100 heals, then, for example, if your crit chance is 60%, then 60 of those 100 heals will have critted. So then we take the total healing done from the 60 crits, and we add the 40 non-crits healing done, and we divide this by 100, and that gives us the total healing of the direct spell. So your crits are going to be higher than this, and your non-crits are going to be lower than this. And this one also doesn't take into account that your crits are going to give you 1.3 cast time on the following spell. And here we have the healing from the hot, and this is just from a single hot from regrowth. So for example, if I cast a rank 4 regrowth, then on average the direct heal would do 845 healing, and then the hot will do 848, giving us a total of about 1.7k healing. Now we are going to compare this to rejuvenation, and here you can see the mana efficiency of rejuvenation, and here you see the mana efficiency of the direct heal from regrowth and the healing over time. Actually, this is both the healing over time and the direct heal added together. So you can see it's like 80 to 90% more mana efficient when you consider both the heals. But you can still see how insanely inefficient regrowth is mana-wise, at least compared to rejuvenation. For example, basically rank 1 regrowth has the same efficiency as a max rank rejuvenation, and as you can see, rank 1 usually have an abnormally high mana efficiency. Here we have the total HPS that you can perform, supposing you're just spamming regrowth, and this is only the direct heal, so we don't care about the latter half of the heal, only the direct heal here. Here we have the total healing, supposing that you include the hot, but you only look at 1 regrowth hots, and just like with rejuvenation, you should spam this out on as many players as possible and just get the most out of the healing over time part of the spell. And if you do this efficiently, you basically double the potential healing compared to just using the direct heal. So the max potential HPS for rank 4 regrowth becomes 1034, and that's high. That's good. But really mana inefficient heals. And this is what those two diagrams really show. You can see the mana efficiency for rejuvenation. Here the gray line is regrowth, supposing you're spamming it on as many players as possible, including the hots. And there you have just the direct part of regrowth, the orange line. And here it's the exact same. Only the direct heal of regrowth, rejuvenation, spamming it on as many as possible, that's the blue line. And finally the gray line is making the most out of the hot with regrowth. And you can see just how high HPS you can potentially dish out during absolutely perfect conditions. But just looking at the mana cost and how quickly you're gonna cast your spells, we can see that actually dividing 6100 by 880, multiplying that, supposing that you get crits on all your regrowths, you're gonna have spent your entire mana bar in less than 10 seconds. So if it's an extremely fast fight, you could get insane numbers of HPS. Anyway, I think that these were all the base numbers basically. The last thing to look at right now is how much 1% crit is worth depending on how much crit you already have. So, and that is basically what this diagram is showing. As you can see, the orange line shows you how much 1% crit is worth depending on where you are. For example, going from 90 to 91% crit, that's worth more than going from 50 to 51%. And this shows you how much more healing you do per cast of regrowth, only looking at the direct heal of rank 4. And even though your HPS can be much higher in practice, crit only affects the direct heal, as healing over time spells can't crit, obviously. So, example, going from 50 to 51, we see how that gives us 2.87 more healing per spell. Meanwhile, going from, let's say, 70 to 71, that gives us 3.08 basically. So, just like with Healing Touch, the more crit you have, the more strong more crit becomes. And one interesting part, which got to do basically and mainly with the very low coefficient for the direct heal, is that 1% crits is actually worth quite a lot of healing power if you only look at the direct heal. And like I said, this is mainly because of the very low coefficient. If you want to get like the real value, you should probably divide this by 2. Just because of the healing over time part being such a big part of this spell. So you can see it starts at about 10.03 or maybe 5, and then it moves up to maybe 12 or 6. So not a huge difference, but yet again, there is a difference. Anyway, that was probably all of the numbers, or at least theoretical numbers, that we were gonna look at this video. We're now gonna head back to the more scripted part of the video. Now, because of the low mana efficiency of regrowth, you might need to spend way more consumes like Major Mana Potion and Runes. Often I find that using Innervate on cooldown together with Major Mana Potions is all you need though. When it comes to world buffs, you basically want everything. 18% crits, which is the Sunflower, Onyxia Dragonslayer buff, and the Diamond Tribute buff, will bring me from 60% crit to 78%, and that in turn will increase my HPS by at least 60 if I'm using rank 4 regrowth. When it comes to the consumables, you might want to consider to use Brilliant Wizard Oil instead of Brilliant Mana Oil, as the Wizard Oil gives you better healing output, which is likely what you're going for with this build. Beside that, it's all the standard consumes, Major Mana Potions, some Runes, Nightfin Soup and Mage Blood. Overall, I'd say that this is actually a more useful build than I thought at first. If you have 2 Druids, then have one go Rejuvenation Healing and one go Regrowth Healing. That could work very well together. Just be prepared to use more mana consumable than you otherwise would. But anyway, that was all for this video. I hope you found it interesting and maybe want to try out Regrowth Healing. If you have any questions, you can join the Discord with a link below. That's probably the best place to ask them. Or you could also tag along and watch the stream whenever I'm live. I'm looking forward to meeting you there. Before we end, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. But this was all for now. I'll be back soon with another video, and until then, see ya!